and welcome to another episode of Presence Practice with Poonam and Parker. Poonam, today's topic is failure. Failure. So you can feel the heaviness attached to that word, failure. Look at all the emotions. Imagine the word failure and strings, guilt, shame, feeling inferior, feeling then another tier to it. Now we're coming down, and are we worthwhile human beings? So this could be a very heavy, dense energy if we see it through the eyes of suffering. The eyes of suffering. So ultimately, there's no failure whatsoever, and there's no success either. It's both the same. It's the same. So we have a video here that Poonam's going to tee up for us. I think it's a video clip on Eckhart TV, EckhartTolleNow.com. And we'll put the link at the bottom of the screen.
You can be still anywhere, alert, awake, a momentary cessation of the stream of thinking, and an alertness remains. That's the spiritual you. When you start thinking again, that's the psychological you, and then there's the physical you, the body. Now you honor the body, you do what's good for the body while it's there. You can work on your psychological self, you can acquire new knowledge, you can learn to perform different things, tasks, become good at this or at that, improve your life on the level of form. Why not? It's part of being here. You can do those things without deriving your sense of self from those things. You can enjoy the body or look after it. You can enjoy whatever activity you're engaged in. But don't look to those things for a real sense of who you are. The sense of who you are must be derived from the essence of who you are. Otherwise it's very unsatisfying and frustrating. And the essence of who you are is formless presence. And then you can be at ease with the fluctuations of what happens in your life, because there's always gain and loss. You get something, you lose something. There's always the fluctuations of things come, things go, success, failure. Then you don't build up an absurd ego when you are very successful in the world. And you don't end up with a miserably unhappy, suicidal sense of self when things collapse around you. because those things did not give you your sense of self. They were part of the dance of form in this world. Your sense of self, always, whether you were successful or suddenly a failure, your sense of who you are, if it came always from that deeper presence in you, is not touched by the ups and downs of what goes on in your life of form. Although, of course, you still do your work on the level of form, without looking for yourself in that. One thing that happens then when you know yourself as the presence, even while you're engaged in doing, or another way of putting it is you know yourself as the being, which is the presence, even while you are doing, and then you're not so attached to the outcome of your doing. There's a freedom. You give it your best shot, whatever the expression is, and if it works, fine. If it doesn't work, oh, that's a pity. It doesn't matter that much because your sense of self isn't bound up with that. And then you have another go at it and enjoy that. And if your entire life fails and collapses, that is a great opportunity for really realizing who you are on the deeper level. And this is why spiritual awakening has come to many people who have lost everything. But don't wait for that. So it's quite a liberation to see all these things that you thought you were are not who you are. Your history, your personal history. It's just the history of this body-mind.
So here we had Eckhart describing for us what uh, the ebb and flow to just ride the waves of life, and even calling something a success or failure is labeling it as something. So there's only whatever we're doing in this present moment. But let's say we're experiencing, we feel like a failure and we feel really identify with this, or feel like we should have known better, we could have done better, or so there's some guilt or shame that's wrapped up in it, then we can very gently move into that space and see if there's a pattern there, see if there's something locked up and where it's sitting in our body. Where does that anxiety sit? Anxiety for me, if it comes, it sits right in the center of my chest. So right where my heart is, right? interesting that our tender heart is under stress when there's an absence and a constriction, an absence of openness and loving kindness and compassion. So there's it's not success or failure. If we're experiencing it, then we can see where was our seeking at? What kind of expectations do we have? What are we identified with? Are we identified with some self-image about how we're perceived out in the world? We're still on the get for approval out there from other people, or from ourselves. We've set these standards, which are expectations. So, hey, Poonam, do you have any words you'd like to add on this topic?
The only thing I remember, or my most favorite quote of it is don't let a mad world tell you that success is anything other than a successful present moment. So even if you were 84, 85 years old, the whole life you were unconscious, but if you took one conscious breath right before passing away, we've lived. That sentence tells me that I may have been unconscious until 80, 90, 100 years old, but if I took one conscious breath right before my life force left my body, then I have lived a successful moment, and that is success. And don't let a mad world tell us that, oh, having a big car or having, there's so many people that are frequency holders that even on the Facebook groups, some people say they love gardening. There's a person that I told him, oh, why doesn't he write about it, right? He says he loves gardening and that's what he wants to do, right? That is a successful present moment. That's a huge frequency holder in all this chaos that is in this world. This person, this human being is holding the frequency of presence. They are contributing a lot more. There's a talk in which Eckhart says, are you the barista at Starbucks or are you the CEO of Starbucks? As a barista of Starbucks, you may be serving a much more higher purpose just by the frequency that you hold than the CEO of Starbucks, right? So
there's the absolute view, which is the view that carries all of the karma. It carries all the it carries us forward, right? As a species. Eckhart says that until he was 50 years old, he would have been considered not a success at all in the world. But in absolute terms, he was a complete success in terms of evolving his consciousness, waking up and evolving his consciousness and getting out of the way.
And the other thing that he says in the video about there's always gain and loss. We may think that, oh, fame is really awesome, but he says in so many of his videos that he loves anonymity. Like he used to love hanging out at coffee places, small coffee places, and watch people. And no longer can he, even if he wears a hat and wears glasses, now people recognize him. Like he loves to go do groceries, right? Like look at the produce and hold it. And he's no longer able to do it because people are beginning to recognize him. And he says in one of the talks that before it was like if there are 100 people or 20 people coming to listen to him, he would go meet each and every person. But now that there are thousands of people, they would like mob him. They wouldn't let him go leave the venue for 2-3 hours if he were to do that, right? Like meet each and every person. So the gain and loss, yeah, he's gained fame, but look, the loss of what he treasures as a.
But is this really, he doesn't really see this as a gain. He doesn't gain the fame. It's just it's happened. But it is true, if you look at this insanity of us looking at, it's a superficial way. So someone begins something that's truly inspired and authentic and unique in the world and original and necessary for whatever it is, even if it's good humor or a new recipe. Then then the circle of influence starts to expand and expand, or the notoriety. But look at fame. It doesn't look fun. Really look at it. If it was so fun, then people taking and dying and going in and out of rehab over and over again from needing more of what? It's like this insatiable desire for more. So on a grand scale of failure, and superficially, if we use the word failure, and superficially we use what we would see is maybe the opposite, which is success, which is equal to some kind of fame, even if it's just in your particular field. There's some kind of fame, and then the attachment. It's like an addictive quality. So failure, first of all, there's so much more going on. Who knows what was created from whatever it is that you may feel that you didn't get right, or that didn't. There must have been much success in there. Nothing is out of order. We're exactly where we need to be. You did do your best. If you think today that you could have done better, well, maybe today you know better. You can go back and judge yesterday, and then create all of that, hand all that energy over to something that is. That's insanity. Yes.
The other thing I notice is a lot of people in the news. Oprah features these type of people as well, like the Chester Farms. There's a young couple that took up this barren land, right? And did the organic farming, doing the, I don't know what it is called in farming, where everything is dependent on each other. So they have the animals that are codependent on each other in the farm. Like they figured out that type of farming, and that's what they believe in. There's so many people that say, I had a Wall Street job, but now I'm making jams. Right? I left my Wall Street job and I'm going to sit here and do all these very different kind of eclectic jams, right? That we wouldn't, the combinations that we would never ever, so they're bottling this product, yeah. Right? Or they may say, oh, I'm going to go leave my Wall Street job and start this food truck business. I want this vegan raw food revolution. I want to participate in it. So each person, what is failure and success is totally, I think it is successful. Like when your presence flows into whatever it is, that is success.
Yeah, so now we're over here in the food truck, or we're over here in our beautiful sun-drenched kitchen making jams, and it doesn't, we can't make ends meet. We need to drop it, right? We're going to drop it over here because it's just not making sense. So there's some people that say, I enjoyed every moment of it. I enjoyed leaving the big corporate Wall Street job. I enjoyed coming to this town and finding this little home. I enjoyed growing all of my berry plants and trees, and I enjoyed making these jams that were free of pectin and other unnecessary parts to what we need to eat. So now we're moving on. Maybe maybe the universe just needed you to do some jams for a little while, for a particular week. Who's to know what the end of that story is? Or you can't extract one bit of even facts about a situation and pretend that you can know hows and whys. Maybe you're learning a lot more from disidentifying from attachments to our ideas of success and identities of feeling like we've got it together and we can always make it work. Just completely insane to stay in that space of and who knows what the universe is opening up next. That's the other thing to keep in mind. You could be so busy telling the story about why this is a failure, you have no idea if it's a failure or not. Let's go over here to what's next, and then come back and reside inside of our bodies in the present moment, and know that you are loved and cared for along the way, in solidarity for the rest of us while we're unpacking these patterns for so many generations. Now we're here. Thank you.
Thank you.